Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would do not one but two tags. These are both quite short tags, so I thought I would do them together, and I think they work quite nicely together. So we have the Travelling with Books tag. I was tagged by Becky from Teacup the Storyteller, and the original is by Gina Stanya Books. And then we also have the Reading Pet Peeves tag. The original is by Big Hard Books and Classics. I have not been tagged in this one, but I saw Alice in the Giant Bookshelf do it the other week, and I thought those questions sounded quite interesting, so I thought I would do them. So first is the Travelling with Books tag. Question 1 is, do you read when you travel? So kind of. I don't travel that often. I don't have a commute to work because I walk to work and I live very near to my workplace, which is very nice. So there's no commuting time to read. If I were going on a long train journey, then yeah, I would absolutely take a book. Or if I was going on a flight somewhere, I would take a book. I haven't been on a plane for several years. If I was getting a sort of a shorter train journey, so like from here to the middle of town, Liverpool city centre, the train takes about 15 minutes. And if I was going to like meet someone else, I probably wouldn't bother taking a book because the train is quite busy and it's quite difficult to concentrate. But if I was going into town to spend a day just myself, shopping and stuff, then yeah, I probably would take a book with me. Question 2 is, do you travel with physical books? I'm going to answer this at the same time as question 3, which is, do you travel with an e-reader? Now, I have never used an e-reader. I have read a couple of books on a tablet, which I know is not the same experience as reading it on an e-reader, but I don't like reading books on a tablet. I just don't like it. I find myself skimming it a bit, I think, because I'm used to obviously looking at a computer screen for work and sort of skimming things. So I find myself doing the same, reading a book on a tablet, and I just prefer physical books. So if I was going to travel with a book, it would be a physical book. It would probably be a paperback, because they're just much easier to travel with. Question 4 is, how many books do you pack when you travel? So if I was going on holiday, I reckon a book for every 2 days and at least one spare is a good ratio, I think. When I'm at home, like a normal week, a working week, I reckon I read about 2.5 books a week. And I feel like on holiday, I mean, it depends where you're going and what you're doing, but you probably have at least as much time as you would at home when you're at work to read. So yeah, a book every 2 days and one spare is my formula. Question 5, does where you go or how long you are travelling impact the type or amount of books you take? So yeah, obviously if I was going away for longer, I'd take more books. In terms of the type of books I would take with me, I think if you're going away, you want to take a book or books that are going to be safe bets. You don't want to be taking with you that, really challenging classic that you've had on your TBR for years. You want to take something that you're going to get on with, because you don't want to have to be like DNFing books and then running out of books. That would be a nightmare. So for me, I'd probably take some sort of like thriller or crime or a book by an author that I've read before and I know that I'm going to get on with. The other thing that I think can be good when you are going away is short stories. I do like short stories. I know a lot of people don't, but I feel like if you're going away, you're not necessarily going to have long periods of time to read, but you're just going to sort of be able to pick up a book now and then. I think short stories can work really well for that. Question 6 is, do you buy books when travelling or visit bookshops or libraries? So generally speaking, I don't visit libraries when I'm, travelling. But yes, I would absolutely visit bookshops and second-hand shops and charity shops. Shopping for books is my absolute favourite activity. So whenever we go anywhere new, at least in this country, I'm always on the lookout for where I can pick up cheap second-hand books. It's my absolute favourite thing to do. Okay, so on to the Reading Pet Peeves tag. Question 1 is, do you ever use or read along with audiobooks? And the answer is no. I really, really struggle with audiobooks. I find it difficult to take information in by listening to it. I have to read it for it to go into my brain. And that's not just the case for reading books. Like if I'm at work or anything, if I just hear something It doesn't go in my brain. I have to see it written down. So audiobooks generally don't work for me. I've never listened to a novel on an audiobook. I have listened to a handful of non-fiction books on audiobook, which tends to work better because you're not having to follow a plot and characters. One non-fiction book that I listened to on audio, which was really great, is My Name is Why by Lem Sissay, because it's narrated by Lem himself. That was excellent. And then I've read a short story on audio, listened to a short story on audio, which was Hello Mum by Bernardine Evaristo, which was excellent, and that really worked on audio. It was only about 40 minutes long. But other than that, no, audiobooks just don't work for me, sadly. Question 2 is, do you utilise your local library? Yes, absolutely. I think I'm probably one of their best customers. I feel like I should have a shelf with my own name on it for all my reserving that I do. I go to the library usually once a week on a Saturday morning. I generally have books waiting for me to pick up. I do my reservations online because it's free of charge, which I think is quite unusual nowadays. So it's really good that they still do that service free of charge. And I'm also a member of a book club at the library as well. Question 3 is, do you DNF books? And the answer is yes, absolutely, all the time. So I do DNF a lot of books. I always have DNF books ever since I started reading as a child. And it's only since joining BookTube, and in particular over the last year or so, since I've actually been recording my DNFs, because I didn't used to do that, that I have realised how many books I DNF compared to sort of your average other reader. So it seems, according to what I hear other booktubers say about their DNFing. My DNF rate, I think, for the year so far is around 30%, which I know seems high, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like I'm DNFing books all the time, but I do. Yeah, I like to DNF. I just don't have patience. I'll DNF a book on page 2. I will DNF a book when I've read 400 pages of it. I have no shame. I am a big advocate of DNFing. Actually, I have been thinking about doing a separate video about DNFing and about sort of why I DNF as much as I do, and some of my reading habits and reading preferences, which I think influence my DNFing a lot. Actually, but yes, the answer to that question is yes, I do DNF. Question 4 is, do you read multiple books at the same time? And the answer is no. And I'm quite envious of other people, other sort of booktubers who talk about how many books they can read at once, because I cannot do it. I just can't do it. And every time I've tried to do it in the past, it ends in disaster. And I don't know what it is. My brain just can't, like keep track of multiple books at once. The only exception would be, and this doesn't really count, but having a short story collection on the go at once. So finishing a novel, then maybe reading a couple of short stories, and then reading another novel. It's not really the same thing. And in the past, occasionally, I have read a non-fiction at the same time as a novel, but again, I very rarely read non-fiction. So no, because what happens when I read multiple novels at once is I just forget what's happened in the first book I was reading, and I lose interest in it. So no, one book at a time for me. Question 5 is, do you make time or have a specific time in your day devoted to reading? So I don't sort of specifically make time for reading, but it just sort of happens as my default setting when I'm not doing anything else. So generally during the week, I might read a little bit in the morning before work, because I work part-time hours. I work my hours over 5 days, but I do slightly shorter days compared to someone who works full-time. So sometimes I'll have a little bit of time in the morning to read. And then in the evening, it's usually late evening when I do my reading, because after work, 4 nights a week I go to the gym, go to gym classes. So by the time I get home, have a shower, have something to eat, it's generally about 9 o'clock. So I'll probably read for 2 or 3 hours in the evening. And then at the weekend, I'll generally do more reading, because if I'm at home not doing anything else, I will just be reading. And I actually sometimes just like carry my book around the house with me, even if I'm not going to have time to read, just in case I have like a spare 2 minutes to read. I'll take it upstairs with me, I'll bring it back down. Yeah, it's a bit like a comfort blanket really, but yeah. Question 6 is, do you dog ear books? No. I mean, if it's your book, then do what you want, I guess, but a lot of my reading is library books anyway, and you know, since I was a child and for most of my life, most of my reading has been library books. And it's actually only in the last couple of years since lockdown that I've started buying books at all. And even when I do buy books, the vast majority are secondhand. So no, I use bookmarks. I don't dog in my books. And then question 7 is, do you annotate your books? And no, I don't. The only time I've annotated books was at university. I studied languages at university, so I did German, Spanish and Italian. And in Italian we did quite a bit of Italian literature, so I annotated those books. And then question 8 is, how do you feel about spoilers? So no, I don't like spoilers. And I've learned not to read the introduction to classics because I've been spoilt by doing that before. I know Alice mentioned that in her video as well. Why do they do that? I don't mind knowing that a book has a twist, as long as I don't know what the twist is. But I know that some people do consider even knowing that a book has a twist in itself to be a spoiler, because they know to expect a twist, which I can understand. But for me, I don't mind knowing that, because if you tell me a book has a twist, I am just going to want to read it even more, because I love that. So those are the end of the questions. I'm not going to tag anyone because I don't know who's done it. I haven't looked. But if you would like to do one or other of these tags, please consider yourself tagged. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.